environmental problems of the planet. In this week, I have two top anti-geoengineering activists, Suzanne Maher and Greg Pallen. Hey guys, are you with me?
Hi Brian, I'm here.
Greg, are you with
Brian,
me?
I'm here too.
Okay. Can you get a bit closer to your mic? You're a bit low on the volume end.
Can you hear me now, Brian?
Yeah, that's better.
Good.
Does it sound good to you, Suzanne?
Yeah, he sounds pretty good. Even the volume a little higher would be maybe a good, Greg.
Yeah, just so you equalize with everybody else.
How does that sound?
Oh man.
Yeah, that's
Perfect.
good. Yeah, that sounds really good.
All right. Okay, sound check out of the way. Suzanne Maher is a Canadian anti-geoengineering activist who was awakened to chemtrails and geoengineering in 2012 by a young child creating awareness online. Who was that young child, Suzanne?
It was a young child named Hannah, and she was she's probably 5 or 6 years old, and she was selling jewelry online, and a portion of her proceeds from the jewelry was going to create awareness for geoengineering. She said she no longer wanted to go outside. Her and her mother knew they were being sprayed, and that the skies were no longer blue. So
Wow.
that really took me on my search, to find out truth and what was going on with our weather.
Wow. Okay, let me finish your bow here. Okay. Suzanne is a vocal, passionate activist who devotes all her time to educating people on these deadly programs and feels it's everyone's moral, social, and ethical responsibility to awaken people to chemtrails/geoengineering. She does many forms of outreach to communicate her message. She has an educational website, Facebook pages under her company name, Bye Bye Blue Sky. She does interviews, hosts events, awareness boosts, speaking engagements, hosting meetings, and billboard campaigns. And she presently has 3 billboards up in Ontario. That's fantastic, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Way to go.
Thank you.
And we also have Greg Pallen. Suzanne and Greg like to work together, which is the key, folks. We have to come together. Greg is a former U.S. congressional candidate and lifelong activist focusing primarily on chemtrails, geoengineering, and Second Amendment rights. Greg's main focus is raising awareness through a powerful combination of platforms, including billboards, social media, radio, TV interviews, along with daily conversations with literally every person he meets. He is primarily a researcher and writer, but he has spearheaded several of the most powerful awareness-raising events at very high-profile venues, including the Weather Channel headquarters and CNN Center in Atlanta, Georgia. Greg has been erecting billboards for various causes since 2010 and has reached tens of millions of people with his critical messages. You can follow Greg on Facebook at Greg Pallen 4, as in number 4 Congress. Greg Pallen 4, number 4 Congress. All right, Greg, how you doing?
Doing good, Brian. Hope you are.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you guys. I'm really glad that you sort of work as in a team format. Is that the case? Do you guys usually do your interviews now together?
Are you asking me, Brian?
Either one of you, yeah.
Yeah, Suzanne and I work, I think, really well together. I think we're both on the same page in terms of how we think we need to wake people up in terms of awareness, how people need to work together with good attitudes and support each other's work. And I think we make a good team, and we both come from slightly different perspectives and backgrounds, so I think it works out really good. I have a lot of respect for her.
Well, I met her on the weekend, last weekend, and I was very impressed with the meeting she put together in Toronto, and the people there were just all top notch. And Suzanne, we got to do it more often.
Yeah, I think that will definitely be an aim. I think at least biannually we need to hold these conferences, and I think it's so important because we had a really good turnout. And, I think that you can really see that we're moving the dial, because I don't know if we could have gotten that kind of crowd a year ago, Brian, but people were really enthused about the day and were very engaged. I was quite happy with the outcome.
Yeah, I just the level of connectedness was just, it was sort of like immediate. Everybody there was sort of in the same energy space,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
I'm kind of an intuitive person, so I sort of pick up on the energy. And yeah, I didn't. There was nobody there seemed anxious or nervous, or it's just like everybody, even though they didn't know each other, they knew why they were there, and it was just a beautiful. For me, it was an incredibly enriching experience. And
Yeah, I think it was a
the
it was a
speakers
one.
she had were incredible.
Yeah, I think it was a wonderful energy share, and I think that they imparted a lot of really, really important information, and particularly in respect to health, because if we're going to be fighting this, we have to take care of our health. That has to be the priority. That's first things first. And we had two really, really great speakers, to talk about ways we can protect our health and keep strong. So I really loved that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, it was great, and I met some. And it's like anything that I do on my show. I try to maintain connections with people who are activists, and through that meeting, I met other people.
Hmm.
And so I'm trying to connect with people around media stuff, and you name it. I mean, that's the key, folks. Is we got to connect. We got to continue to connect, create more and more connections, and through those connections, we'll meet other people, and then eventually we'll all come together on all the issues.
Yeah, I think it needs to be a coalescing of all issues, because we're all fighting for the same thing: is our sovereignty, our rights, our freedoms, and I think we all need to do that. So it's important.
Yeah. So, Greg, tell me a bit more about when you got became aware of the geoengineering problem. When did you discover this?
I would say it's somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago. I do a lot of astronomy. I'm an amateur astronomer, and I have a pretty big telescope that we like to look at the moon and um, galaxies and stars and all the beautiful planets. And I really enjoy that. It's relaxing. And I started to notice, somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago, an accelerated spraying in front of the moon, where we would see multiple trails obscuring my view of the moon, and it just was not normal. It's nothing I had seen previously to that time. Um, and over the last few years, obviously, it would appear that we have lunar radiation management as opposed to solar radiation management, because I just walked out the night before last, and with a 99% waning gibbous moon, we had chemtrails just covering the moon. It was really, it's kind of disappointing. I feel sorry for my fellow astronomers, because it's really difficult. We have a cabin up in the mountains, and I often take my telescope over to a winery that's close by, and kind of like as an outreach. And the owner of the winery's son over there has been wanting to see the Orion Nebula, and several, M42 Orion Nebula, and Andromeda, and some of the other galaxies that you need a clear night for. And gosh, it seems like every time I haul that telescope over to the winery, we get chemtrailed out. We might even get over there and it'll be clear. And by the time I get set up, we got a trail at our grid of contagion, what I call the grid of contagion. So I really noticed it, to answer your question, because of my astronomy hobby, I think, and fishing. I fish a lot. So I'm constantly looking at the sky with a lot of horizon on the lake, and witnessing, sadly, our poisoning.
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely the environmental issue that has the least amount of visibility. Although I think that's getting better. I think I think How do you find the billboards are working for you guys? You find it's really, does it create a lot of noise for you? Does it get people calling you, asking you questions, joining your group through the billboards? How do you find how effective is it as an educational tool?
Go ahead, Suzanne.
Sure. I think it's absolutely pivotal to waking people up, Brian. I have 3 billboards up presently, and also the subway campaign, and in total, it's reaching about 6 million people a month. And my hits on my website are averaging about 300 a day, which I know is pretty good, and that is because people are being directed there by these messages. And I think many people are sort of subconsciously aware of this issue, but when you see a billboard and it makes this issue materialize when you can see the skies, when you can see the issue right in front of you. And I think it's so important. I think this is, awareness is the key to resistance. And for us to resist, we have to be aware. And I think that billboards are absolutely critical in this fight to awaken people.
Greg, have you found it to be the same for you in the billboards you've put up in the U.S.?
Yes, no doubt. I mean, we used the calendar here lately to generate funds for this latest billboard that I just put up yesterday. Actually, it went up, and it's got 1 million views a month. It's at Spaghetti Junction in Atlanta, which is probably one of the best spots you could put a billboard in the entire city. It's just an incredible spot. But I think definitely we can tell, like Suzanne, I promote both Suzanne's site, Bye Bye Blue Sky, and Air Crap. The next billboard I put up will probably be a Bye Bye Blue Sky billboard, but right now my billboard is Air Crap, and I do communicate with the administrators over there, and they say that they can definitely tell a huge increase in traffic because I actually promote, when I put up a billboard, I use Facebook to help promote the billboard. So, and the effort to raise money for more billboards. So there's a lot of excitement generated. That's the reason I like to boost posts on Facebook to reach 10, 20, 50, 100,000 people, depending on how much money you want to spend. You can reach people that way. And I get a lot of shares on the billboard. I've gotten as many as, 1,000 shares just straight off my page. So people get excited about it. And I think it just lends credibility when you boost a billboard post and then people share it, because they're sharing it to their family members that don't believe typically. And they're saying, look at this guy put up a billboard, and look at this group put up a billboard on a major interstate. There must be something to this. So for the families that are calling one member within their family a conspiracy theorist, I think, really putting up the billboards and then creating the excitement and buzz that not only takes it from a local level that it's up in Atlanta, but it gets shared all over the country and all over the world. I think of any post that I put up, the billboard posts really create a lot of shares and a lot of buzz and excitement. So hopefully it'll create more people, jumping on the bandwagon and either contributing or putting up billboards in their own towns,
Well, I like the T-shirts that Suzanne had at her event. I thought they were dynamite. I bought 2 of them, and hopefully my kids are wearing them to school. And that's another audience we got to get into is the school system. I'm 60 years old. I've had a full life. I mean, if I die in 10 years, it's not the end of the world for me. But I mean, our kids are young, and their future is completely nullified if we don't stop this practice.
Yes, absolutely. I think we need to look at the schools. We need to awaken children to this issue. They need to know that this matters. We all have to get into the arena, Brian. I mean, it's not enough to just simply sit on Facebook and post pictures. We all have to get out there and be brave. And we all can do this. It's not that hard. You join some like minds. You get creative. You use your imagination, and we all can do this. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the site I was looking for. You call it Air Crap, Greg?
Yes, aircraft.org. There's, I've spent the last, gosh, probably 4 or 5 years working with some of the different uh, leaders in the movement, and I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out who is delivering truth and who is not delivering truth. And, there's probably more disinformation than there is good information. So I think it's important that at a time when we need to wake people up, that we send them to sites where they're going to get accurate information and not be led uh, to any particular agenda, you know.
Hmm.
So I like Aircraft. I obviously like Suzanne's site. There's another one, Arizona Skywatch. That's a really good site. And those are the three that I typically promote. I have business cards that I actually take around no matter where I go and hand them out. And I like using business cards personally because a lot of businesses won't let you in the front door with a pile of brochures, but you can, put 50 or 100 business cards in your pocket and walk around and hand them out in a restaurant or in a grocery store or whatever. So I personally like to use business cards, but everybody's, got their own ideas and in regard to reaching people. As long as we're reaching out.
I have to agree, Greg. I find business cards most effective too. Where I do use brochures is if I'm at an outreach market or a booth, people will take them. But generally, people don't want something so bulky. You want to deliver a quick, compact, impactful message, and business cards do that. And as soon as someone brings up the issue or something related to it, then you can just take out your business card. Please check, our weather's being modified. Please go to my website. Please look at these resources. So they're very effective.
So, Greg, when you ran for Congress in 2012, did you talk a lot about geoengineering in your campaign?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It was recommended to me not to talk about it, and I broke that rule on several occasions when I thought it was appropriate, because ultimately, I had a campaign manager, but ultimately, it was my decision, what I wanted to talk about, and it was recommended that I not address it. And I think if I had to do over again, I probably surely would have talked about it more than I did. You do have to be careful because the idea is to win so that you can affect change. But now looking back on it, hindsight's always 2020. I wish I would have just pulled out all the stops because the system, did not like the fact that I was talking about fluoride, vaccines, GMO, chemtrails. I was talking about all of it. As long as you are speaking about jobs and economy, the system is more than happy to work with you. But when you talk about the things that they do not want addressed, and that would include the Federal Reserve, I would speak a lot about monetary policy, et cetera. And when you do that, you put a bullseye on your back. And so I tried to kind of balance my approach without where they couldn't paint me totally as a tin hat, and gain credibility on other issues, and then bring up the chemtrails. On several occasions I did that, but again, now when I look back, the way the parties, both parties, that being the left-right paradigm that we have, both parties will seek to destroy you if you address the real critical issues, And I saw this personally with the chairman of the Republican Party in my own county, going door to
Did you
door
run as a
against.
Republican? I wasn't sure. Was it a Republican or a Democrat?
Yeah, I ran as a Republican, called myself a liberty-minded Republican, and the Republicans don't want liberty-minded Republicans. I've read Republican principles, and I agree with the Republican principles. The problem is that the Republican Party is not adhering to its own Republican principles, and it's sad. I mean, we live in an upside-down world right now. So, literally, when the system senses that you're not going to toe the mark. And again, talk about jobs and economy. If you step outside those boundaries, they step back, unfortunately. And I'll be honest with you, I don't really trust the system. I don't trust the voting apparatus. And I really feel like at this point, I'm more effective going directly to the people and bypassing the political system, because even once you're in the political system, I think it's hard to, obviously we have had Dennis Kucinich's but to get in there and to get in there, period, is very difficult now. I think the days of people like Cynthia McKinney and Dennis Kucinich getting elected, which obviously Cynthia McKinney, she's a friend of mine and she's quite the rebel. They destroyed her. I don't know if you've ever watched that documentary, American Blackout, but in the end, they completely destroyed her in a variety of different ways.
Is Cynthia still living in the U.S.? I think she's not. I think she's somewhere else right now, eh?
I haven't talked to her lately. I know she was finishing up her PhD, and she was able to make our Weather Channel event last year. We were really pleased when we took on the Weather Channel at their headquarters here in Atlanta.
I spoke with her briefly on Skype once, but I found that she's like 8 hours out of this time zone. I think she's somewhere over in when I was talking to her anyway, somewhere in Europe or even India or something like that. So
yeah, she was in Bangladesh for a while, and it could have been finishing up her studies. So it could have been during that time period. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Well, yeah. Tell me about this. This is something I think is vital, is what you guys did down in going after the Weather Channel and media in general, just protesting the fact that they're not talking about this stuff. How did that event go down in? Well, that's right where you live, I guess, in Atlanta, Georgia, right?
Yeah, I live about 45 minutes outside town, 45 minutes to an hour outside town. And, I just felt like the Weather Channel is the propaganda arm that helps sell the polar vortexes and all the new cloud types. And if you pull up the Weather Channel on my iPhone app, I mean, literally they have chemtrails in the background, the main screen. So, and we decided to take them on directly with heavy-duty signage, lots of brochures, megaphones. We really created quite a spectacle because they're right at the intersection of I-285 and I-75, which is just a major traffic area. So we had all the overpasses covered. We literally had a gal standing out on the interstate. I'm actually surprised that the cops let her do that. We gave it a thumbs up, thumbs down, and that photo actually got thousands of shares with that gal standing out there on the interstate at rush hour traffic. But again, we had people holding signs over the overpasses. So it wasn't just waking up Weather Channel and all the large companies around it and all their employees screaming at them on a megaphone, getting their attention and talking to them. And they were all outside, a lot of the employees. And so we engaged them in conversation. But it was also the hundreds of thousands of people that were driving through that area on any given rush hour day that we were appealing to also. So it was quite interesting. We actually, with that event, we had, I'd call them death threats. We had a Facebook page that was set up just a couple days after I announced we were going to do Weather Channel and do a protest there. There was a Facebook page that was set up called Execute Chemtrail Activists and Geoengineering Fearmongers on Site. And they said that they would give us wings, which is what they said about the two cops, two policemen that were shot dead in cold blood in New York. So they're not playing around. I mean, unfortunately, that little stunt that Facebook played, and they allowed that's still up, actually. If you do a search for execute chemtrail activists and geoengineering fearmongers on site, that
You're
page
kidding.
is still
They
up
didn't
to
take that
this
site
day.
down.
To this day, that page is still up.
That's shocking.
And oh, it is. And that's why we got on InfoWars Nightly News because of that. I was so busy with the event. That was actually my better half's idea. And she said, we need to file a police report in Cobb County. And I said, that's a great idea. I just don't have time to do it, Mary Lou. And so she did. And that got InfoWars attention. And we were on InfoWars Nightly News. And it was supposed to be 4 minutes. And it turned into an 18-minute interview, which was a great interview. And it's just sad that we live in a country where you decide to exercise your First Amendment rights to free speech and you get, death threats. And it's a pretty scary looking page if you take a look at it. But it was interesting because when we got there, there was an outrageously large police presence. I mean, there was probably 100 cops on motorcycles in a motorcade when we pulled in. And
you're kidding.
No, it was very interesting.
Cow.
It was like the Martin Luther King days. I mean, we literally, and by the way, when I left my property that day, and my dog, I gave him a nice long goodbye because I really felt like I might not see him that night with that situation, with those threats. But, obviously you persevere, and we couldn't get to the event. We tried 3 different routes to get to the event. It starts to make you wonder what they're doing to try to keep you from making it to your own event. But we finally, we got there on time. I left 2 hours early, and we got there right on time. And anyway, we get there, and these cops are in a motorcade. And I'm like, what in the heck is going on here, And I was like, gosh, I hope they're here, on our side and not here to cause trouble for us. And I wrote a letter after the event commending the Cobb County Police Department because I thought they actually did a fine job. I actually felt safer with all those guys there, and they waved at us, and they were friendly, and I was really impressed with their presence, and it was interesting. We actually, the bus driver pulled up on Weather Channel property, which is ultimately Rothschild owned, and I came off the bus and got thrown back on the bus because we were on Rothschild property. We weren't supposed to be on Rothschild property. I put the window down to the bus driver and, hey, what are we doing here? I just got roughed up, and you're supposed to be across the street, Jack. But anyway, it was interesting. It was a fun day. We had a good time, actually. It was cold. They brought the cold weather, and we had a really good time. We had Michael Murphy there. We had Cynthia McKinney, Jack Blood, Atlanta radio personality Jack Blood, and we had some activists from Berlin, Germany that flew in, and it was really, really a fun time. It really was. It was what a great way to exercise your First Amendment right.
Have you thought of doing something similar again?
Yeah, actually I have. In fact, we're considering, maybe I shouldn't even announce it, but Suzanne and I have been talking about a march on Washington, not at any particular date, so they better be ready for us. But we're talking about doing something like that. I think it needs to be done. Obviously, there's been, the bikers have ridden their motorcycles into Washington, and that's, again, I think where, I've heard activists say that raising awareness isn't going to win this battle, and I would disagree with that. I think we do need to raise massive awareness because we need people to show up at events. We need hundreds of thousands of people aware of this thing, so maybe a few thousand show up at an awareness-raising protest when there's death threats. The death threats have a serious effect on attendance. They really do. We found that out at Weather Channel. I talked to this gal that said, I asked my husband if he would go with me, and he said, hey, there were death threats. I'm not going to that event. You're not going to that event. I'm not letting you go. So she asked her sister, will you go with me? No, I'm not going to that thing. I heard there were death threats. And so then she came by herself and told her husband she was just going to go to the mall, and she showed up by herself. So we know that the death threats had a chilling effect on attendance. So, if we can wake up again, 1 million, 10 million, 20 million, maybe we can get 10,000 people to march on Washington. But I think people are in fear of their lives, and they better get over that, because these programs they're definitely sickening us all already. And I think they're killing a lot of people already. I mean, I know so many people that have Alzheimer's. Just on the lake that I live on, there's 3 people that are dying of Alzheimer's right now. Autism is off the charts. My niece is victim of Asperger's, which is a form of autism, and so many other friends of mine whose children have autism. It's just, these things are epidemics, and they're accelerating based on the aluminum, and the aluminum in conjunction with the fluoride is a 10,000% increase in toxicity, and so many people are drinking fluoridated water. So these programs have to be brought to a halt. And I've come to the conclusion that the only way we're going to do that is by taking on the system and putting up the billboards. And obviously, Suzanne is a sterling example of all the things that need to be done to wake people up.
Yeah, I think Suzanne is doing a remarkable job. And the funny thing is that I live in Canada. I live, I'm sort of in Ontario and Quebec, and I found out about Suzanne through someone who lives in California in the geoengineering movement, Ralph Ely. So we're not at the point where everybody knows everybody yet. So this is crucial that we continue to get the message out and we connect as activists. I think that is so crucial. Now that I know Suzanne, I'm going to do everything I can to support what she's doing, because I just love her and I love what she's doing.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, and this is how we'll get it stopped. It's team play. We can't do it in a vacuum. We can't do it independently. We all have to try and get along with one another and work together. And that truly is what's so great with working with Greg Bryan, because he's got a flattened ego, zero ego. He's a creative ideas person.
He's got a great smile.
Yeah. And
Thanks.
he's a pleasure to work with. And, it's just really, and it's a really great exchange of information and ideas. So it's just really, I'm very fortunate to have met him and know him, because he is a fine individual as well. And I feel like we're really breaking boundaries with the work we're doing with the calendar, with our billboards. And we're now working on a DVD, which is going to be a compilation of all the people's efforts that were on the calendar that we did, the men and women fighting chemtrails, which was really successful and really well received, because Greg was able to get his billboard up in Atlanta because of the calendar. And also I was able to extend a billboard I have up in Cambridge, Ontario for another month. So people were purchasing these calendars. People want to get the information out there. There's a fellow in the States that just purchased 12 off me, and he said he wants to pass them around to all the businesses. That is exactly the type of people that we need to wake up, Brian. That is the person that is going out there and sharing a calendar with 12 different companies. I mean, so we can awaken people like this tomorrow who have that sensibility, that passion to take it to another level. So I cannot overstate the importance of that.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is you're sort of normalizing the issue by doing things like billboards and calendars. I mean,
yeah, and we also want to show that it's really cool to be awake. And when, in a culture where it's all consumerism and vapidity, here you have we're showcasing 12 wonderful people, all with different skills and abilities and talents, and we're just. It's amazing, because it's so cool to be awake and to have a passion. And these people are we did the calendar to honor them and to awaken people. And we all need to honor each other. And it's so important to acknowledge each other's efforts and to work together.
Yeah. So who are all the activists on this calendar that you? Why don't you sorry to cut you off, Greg? But who are the activists on this calendar that you highlighted?
You want to take that, Greg?
Yeah, I would. I've actually got a calendar in front of me. I'm smiling as I look at it again. This January is a gal by the name of Ria Den Breegen, who came to my Weather Channel event in Atlanta, and I got to know her really well. And she's just a fantastic woman. Brought me a piece of the Berlin Wall, from a real piece of the Berlin Wall. I was amazed, and she's an artist. She did a painting of me. I mean, who does that kind of stuff? I mean, we just enjoyed our time with Ria Den Breegen, and I can't say enough about her. We took her to the Georgia Guidestones while she was here. And Mr. February is Dr. J. Marvin Herndon, who is an American interdisciplinary scientist, nuclear physicist, amazing man, world-renowned physicist.
I messaged him today, Greg. I asked him to come on my show. Yeah.
I'm so glad you did, Brian, because I've spent a lot of hours on the phone with him, mainly getting to know him, and I really think a lot of him. I just like him. I think he's an honest person. I don't think he's got an agenda. I've read all his research papers. I've read the retractions. I've spent a lot of time, researching him because you have to be so careful. Because if you make one mistake, the trolls are waiting to jump on you. You can have 100, great posts that are truths, and they can find you, with one error or one bad decision. So I spent a lot of time getting to know Marvin and looking at his work because it is very controversial, and there are people working behind the scenes to make sure that his message does not get out, which made me want to look at it even closer. And amazing man on a personal level, but his research, even outside of the geoengineering movement, is absolutely fascinating, especially me being an astronomer. He's got theories of how the light from stars is formed, involving fusion and fission, and I'm not going to go into all that because I need to get on to the next month, but he's an amazing guy. Terry Lawton from Ireland. I spoke with him for 9 hours on a Skype call last week. I've never had a 6-hour conversation.
9 hours.
9 hours.
That's got to be almost a world record for a Skype call.
I know, but he's such a likable guy, and he's just he had a bad car wreck a couple years ago, and we've had a bad car wreck. So we have that in common, and we talked about that for quite a while, the similarities of our wrecks. And I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but with the neural dust and the nanobots and the frequencies, they can manipulate behavior. And so, I've got a lot of opinions on that. It's a totally different subject.
Do you think they tried to take you out? Because I had a pretty bad incident I narrowly avoided recently. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I felt like I was in a Mission Impossible movie.
Well, when the wreckage, Terry Lawton's wreckage was nasty. I mean, the car was in pieces. Our car was in bad shape. I hit a pole doing about 60. But when you look at all the people in this movement that have had their houses burned down, their mothers run over, bad car wrecks, deadly car wrecks, it starts to, at least make you suspicious. And I'm not saying that is what happened in our wreck for sure, but I sure am suspicious after talking to more and more people in the movement about the details of these wrecks. In fact, in Terry's case, 2 accident reports were lost, and that's never happened in the history of that police department, where both accident reports, so they dropped the case. It's sad, but we live in a world where we're going to be targeted, for telling the truth. So to me, it's kind of a badge of honor, badge of courage, whatever. But I was Mr. April. Kara St. Louis was Miss May. She's an amazing teacher, activist, speaker, author of a book called The Sun Thief. She's the lady whose house was burnt down. Her mother was run over. I mean, she's had her fair share of, personal disaster, and it's sad. Max Bliss was Mr. June. He's got some amazing work at climate conferences and got some great videos documenting the spray planes and which planes actual airlines are spraying and at what altitudes. And again, he was instrumental in the Paris Climate Conference, and I tried to help him get there, as did, I think, Suzanne. Suzanne, Miss July, star of the calendar. Can't say enough about Suzanne, all that she does, all that she is. She's just a pillar of strength and an example just for the entire geoengineering community. mainly I think is just she doesn't have any ego. She shares the spotlight. She commends other people's work. She uplifts other activists, which I think is just really, really strong and really impressive. Moving on to Mr. August is an artist rapper by the name of David Castle, who, God willing, I should have the opportunity to meet here in a couple of weeks. Unbelievable. Really? Yeah. I'm going to be doing a little snow skiing. He lives out in Nevada, and I'm going to be meeting with him. He's going to teach me how to snowboard. So I've done a lot of skiing, but I haven't ever snowboarded. And he's just a great kid. 22 years old, he wrote the song Digital Clouds, White Snakes and Digital Clouds. I love his song. I think it's amazing. In fact, one thing I want to do, I was brainstorming last night, and I'm in a very kind of just the idea stage of this thing, but he doesn't even know about it yet. But I want to do a billboard on Times Square and have him perform. I think that would be amazing. And I'm actually looking at that right now because they can synchronize billboards with artists. And I just think this kid has got a powerful message to send. And can you even imagine how many people we could reach with a live performance on Times Square? I just think that would be absolutely amazing. And it's something, it's going to be one of my main projects when we get done with this DVD. I think if he's willing to do it, and I think he would be.
Well, he's put together a whole album of songs about environmental issues, right?
But this Digital Clouds, Brian, that was a home. Babe Ruth slammed it right out of the park.
I posted all the lyrics. Yeah, beautiful lyrics.
Oh, just amazing lyrics. And but to move on, Val Hall, she is an admin for a lot of different chemtrail Facebook pages and websites, and she's Suzanne's admin, and she does a fantastic job on Bye Bye Blue Skies as well as a lot of other sites. And she's also a street activist. She gets out there and deals with the people face to face directly on the streets, which I always respect that because I like to do that myself. October's, I think, is an amazing page with the twin Candys, Candy Nelson and Candy Griffin Vandewalker. Candy Griffin Vandewalker is a researcher, and she gets into the dark side that very few chemtrail activists, seem to want to talk about. And I think it's important to talk about it because this Morgellons disease and artificial intelligence and mind control and all these aspects of the chemtrails are very, very important. And these are both Candys are Morgellons sufferers. And they both have an amazing story to tell, and they're both going to be in the DVD. So I can't wait for people to be able to see their work and what they've been through on a physical level. I mean, Candy Griffin Vandewalker talks about how she has these nano claws crawling out of her skin. You can see them on a microscope. It's a claw, Brian. I mean, it looks like a crab claw. And what's really sad, I think what really drives home the evil nature of what we're dealing with is that there's a Spider-Man character called Nano Claw. So that if somebody goes and looks up Nano Claw, they come up with Spider-Man character and delusional parasitosis. And in fact, when you pull up Candy Nelson's video, you're led to a pharmaceutical ad for psoriasis. This is not psoriasis. So it's just so sad what they're, the way they're painting these people's condition. It's just normal psoriasis, and it's so far beyond that, and it's so evil and ugly. I mean, the ugliness of the nature of the controllers that are inflicting this on the population. Michael Murphy's Mr. November. Obviously, Michael, director, producer of What in the World and Why in the World. His name and work speaks for itself. He's working on his third film, Unconventional Shade of Gray. And finishing off with Alana Freeland, Chemtrails Heart.
I was going to say, you got to get Alana on that calendar.
Yep. she was Miss December, and her book, Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. She actually sent me a copy of that after I did the InfoWars Nightly News, and we did the Weather Channel, which I was proud to get. And she's done amazing work. She's going to be on the DVD with her Buzzsaw interview with Sean Stone. Again, her work speaks for itself. Amazing individual. And one point I want to make, and I'm sure Suzanne will second this, and I'm going to let her talk for 20 minutes straight, because I just wanted to really highlight these people, and I'm sure Suzanne can add to my description. But I wanted to say before I let Suzanne have the mic back, we couldn't get everybody. I mean, there's so many activists, and inevitably there's probably going to be a few people that get their feelings hurt, and I think we do need to overcome our egos and just be really happy for the people that were in the calendar, because most of these people live, eat, and breathe this stuff, and they've gone through a lot. They've suffered a lot. I know personally that some of the people in this calendar are being hit with frequencies. So we are all suffering. We really are. And the people that are at the tip of the spear of this thing are suffering, and they're being personally targeted. And so I think we need to respect these people and not look down on them, because if you're picked to be in this calendar next year, you may be a target. So be careful what you wish for. There's a lot of people that deserve to be in it. We could only pick 12 next year. Hopefully we'll have a whole new cast, and everybody will be supportive and just uplift the people that are risking their lives. And I'm thankful for everyone that is working in a positive direction and not engaging in the global warming, global cooling debate. Let's work to get the spraying stopped, and let's not obfuscate. Give Marvin Herndon a seat at the table. The guy's done amazing work with his coal fly ash. We can go into that too. I think that needs to be discussed as to what this guy has shown, what he's proven. But anyway, I'm sorry. I'm going to let Suzanne have the floor.
Great summary, Greg. Great summary.
Yeah, really great
You're
summary.
an excellent public speaker, Greg. You really know how to engage and build rapport with people. I can just tell from here that you're super personable.
Well, thanks, Brian. I think it comes from the heart, and that's the best. That's maybe why it sounds the way it does. It does come from the heart.
Mm.
I can attest to that.
Yep.
So, Suzanne, what do you usually say to people when you first meet them and they're completely oblivious as to what's going on in the skies? How would you approach a newbie on this issue?
I approach it from many different ways. In terms of, firstly, I like to gauge their information base. So, for example, if I'm in a market and someone wants to come up to me and talk to me about the weather, then I will certainly go there and I will give the information to them in small digestible bits. I won't give them too much. I will always have a brochure, a DVD, a business card, something that they can take home and look at and research. There's a lot of people, Brian, too, that are very disturbed with our food supply, the GMOs and the glyphosates, and basically the destruction of our food system as we know it. So a lot of people I find in the markets and stuff I do, they want to go there. So that is a perfect opportunity or segue to get into, Monsanto's patent, the drought stress-resistant abiotic seed that they have, aluminum-resistant. Again, we can talk about the lack of governmental accountability if they want to, if they're very disillusioned with our government, and the lack of action there. Or, for example, people's health. I mean, everybody has someone in their family that has asthma, ADHD, or Alzheimer's, or cancer. Everybody. So I can always look at the person and their information, and then I can go in through the front door or I can go in through the back door and on an issue that isn't chemtrails. So, again, always respectful, small digestible bits. Oftentimes, or not even oftentimes, occasionally, they might be fearful, they might be angry, and that's perfectly okay too, because we know that there's so much. It's a fear-laden culture, and the cognitive dissonance is rampant. So that's fine too, because sometimes they do come back. I've found people have come back that have said no, they don't want the information. So all we can do as activists and as truthers is spread the seeds of awareness, and that I feel is my job, and I do my best to do it like that.
Where have you sponsored or been with awareness boosts? In malls, or like you're saying at farmers markets?
Kind of all over. I started in Aurelia, Ontario, so I did a few markets there. That was my first market, and it was interesting to see farmers. They came up to me and they were blown away that I actually had the chutzpah to get out there in a market with a government booth a few feet down the aisle and talk about, the government's criminal activity. So that was very supportive, and that actually gave me the push to look at other venues. So I also did vitamin stores all summer. I did about half dozen vitamin stores. And that was actually interesting, and again, a perfect venue to talk to people about their health. That's what they want to talk about at a vitamin store. I did an antique boat show in Huntsville, or I should say Gravenhurst, last summer. That was probably my best market in terms of responses. I also did a home and cottage show. I actually did another show at the Huntsville Mall. I can't recall the name, but I was going all over Ontario last summer with my booth. So,
has anybody ever had a geoengineering dance or something fun, something to take the edge off the issue? I think that's a part of the movement that's really missing. Trying to make it fun, trying to make it enjoyable, kind of like what your event was.
Yeah, I think actually that's a good idea, because again, we have to make it accessible, fun, cool, and put perhaps a little bit of a lighter tone on a very dark issue, because even when I'm out there talking to people, I always, my messages, like I have Fred Flintstone on a banner saying, wake up and smell the or look at the chemtrails. And you have to be, it's a delicate subject. So you have to come at it in different ways and to appeal to different people. But I like the idea of a dance. Anything, to promote unity and education and awareness.
Or a music fest or something. We'll talk more about those ideas after the break, looking at other ways to promote this issue. Okay, thanks a lot, guys, and we'll be back soon, folks. I have with me today Suzanne Maher and Greg Pallen talking about the issue of geoengineering and some of their great activist work in this area. Now, I do need to talk about supporting Revolution Radio. It's one of the few places on the planet where there's no censorship. We're not told what we can say or what we can't say. We don't sponsor we get no sponsors from any major corporations. And actually, in fact, we're very strongly discouraged from advertising any product, period. So we do have a great slate of hosts here, over 90 programs on 2 different platforms. And I strongly encourage all my listeners to make a $5 contribution a month, sign up for the archives, $4.95 a month, access to 90 shows, download them, listen to them whenever it makes sense to you. I always have like 3 or 4 shows ready to go for my car when I'm making my long drives. And man, is it ever refreshing compared to listening to mainstream radio, I'll tell you. So there you go, folks. There's my plug for the station. It's an awesome place. I thank them all the time for letting me have a show here. And I think my show has created some change in this planet. And I think some of the other shows and all the other shows are doing their best in that regard, too. So let's get back to my 2 great guests. I'm getting a bit of an echo here, but not too bad. So we were chatting a bit during the break there, and I want you guys to plug your sites, and I want you to plug what you're selling to, or what you're doing to raise money on your sites. Okay, so let's start with Greg.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Brian. My Facebook page is Greg Pallen, Pallen, the number 4, Congress, and our Stop the Spraying GoFundMe is www.gofundme.com. That's gofundme.com Stop the Spraying. And on that GoFundMe, you can make a donation to our billboard campaign down here in the States. Suzanne's running one up in Canada right alongside ours. And for a $25 donation to Stop the Spraying, we will send you a calendar. So, and that was part of the calendar idea, was to give people something in return for their generous contribution, and at the same time educate them and create awareness and create excitement and acknowledge activists. And so that Stop the Spraying page, I would really appreciate any contribution, even just a couple dollars we would appreciate, because they add up. But at a $25 minimum donation, we will definitely send you a calendar, and we will request a mailing address from you so that we can do so.
Sure. Greg, I'm just curious, what does it cost to run a billboard, say, per month?
That's a great question, Brian. I'm really glad you asked that, because what people need to do, we set up Stop the Spraying with the idea of other people putting their billboards on the Stop the Spraying Facebook page. And then if some people are territorial, if people in Tennessee want to support a billboard, hopefully there's one in Tennessee or Kentucky. If people in Wisconsin want to build or support a billboard, hopefully there's one in Wisconsin or Minnesota. So, but outside of Stop the Spraying, if people want to do their own billboard, what I would recommend they do, because the regular rates on these billboards aren't cheap, especially in Atlanta. That billboard that I just put up yesterday is probably somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000 a month billboard.
What?
Yeah, they're not
Holy
cheap.
cow. I had no idea. I
But
thought it was a couple $100 a month.
no, not to reach 1 million people in the Atlanta market at Spaghetti Junction. It's kind of like Times Square. They get big premiums because I just read last night, 72% of people who see an ad for something on Times Square think it's a high quality product. So I think, there's some of that psychology going there too, that they justify these higher rates in these big metro markets. But that billboard, you have to call the billboard companies. I started with Fairway Billboards, and I spent hours on the phone with the sales guy with the idea that hopefully he would go to bat to get me nonprofit rates. And actually what I've got is even better than a nonprofit rate. It's called a preemptive rate. And what the billboard companies have the right to do is you negotiate, let's say $1,500 a month on a $5,000 or $6,000 billboard, but they do have the right to move you if you get preempted by Coca-Cola or IBM or whatever. But my experience has been that once that billboard gets up, management seems to be keeping them in the same spots. All my billboards that I've done in Atlanta, they might have one move, and they'll maybe move from 1 million hits or 900,000 hits to maybe 750,000. So it's still a big number. So anybody that wants to put up a billboard, if you want to work with what we set up, we'd be more than happy to help you. But if you want to do it yourself, I would recommend contacting the billboard companies. And I'm finding that in the past, like Clear Channel, they didn't do preemptive rates, but now they are doing preemptive rates. There's another company in Atlanta by the name of Boardworks that they actually have a deal where you make an offer. If they have open space, you can make an offer, and management will obviously either accept or deny or reject, I should say. So I'm working on getting my next one that actually would have a 1.6 million tab out of home rating. That's what they call it, tab out of home rating. 1.6 million. I'm going to make $1,000 offer on that and just see if I can get it for that, and they can come back and we can haggle. But it would appear that the billboard companies are becoming a little bit more aggressive with their promotions, and so I was really pleased to see that. And the nice thing about the digital billboards is you can change the message in 5 minutes. I mean, you can change the website, boom, it's all digital. They can do it at the office, and 5 minutes later, you're running a different website or a different message. And we actually want to run a message of a family looking up at a chemtrail sky, a man and woman with their children, or man and wife with their two young children looking up at a sky with a message. And we haven't decided on that message yet, but we want to, appeal to families and maybe pull at the heartstrings a little bit. So,
or grandparents would be nice too. Yeah.
With good call. That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. Are you concerned about your children's future, looking up in the sky, or your grandchildren's future? Because people love their grandchildren,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
They just love them to death. Their own kids.
That's true.
But no, the grandkids are always special. But anyways, I just throw that in there. But man, that was a great lesson on a billboard business. I had no idea it was that complicated.
Yeah, I spent quite a bit of time, and then you got to sign contracts. I spent the better part of a day yesterday getting all the contracts signed and deciding which board we wanted, and deciding, because part of it is I like to take pictures of the boards and I like to monitor the boards. So I get by that board quite often. It's the best board anyway, but I do get by that, and I know friends of mine that get by that board. So we're watching, making sure that, it's not coming down and it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And I think it's important to also promote the billboard once it's up. Suzanne's really good. She's got great pictures of her billboards, and just to give people the idea. And I had a guy contact me today in Louisville. He wants to do a billboard in Louisville. And gosh, I'd love to see one in every state. I'd like to see 4 or 5 in every state. And I think you talk about reaching critical mass of awareness so that the pilots, my brother's a pilot, that's a whole nother discussion, really. But
I didn't know if you wanted to go there. I was going to ask you. You didn't go in the text area. I was going to ask you, can I bring your brother up? Because that's a pretty juicy story.
Actually, it's a very interesting comments that were made in the past couple months, and how these pilots are brainwashed. We need to appeal to the pilots. We need to appeal to, do public events at military bases. Just getting the attention. Attorneys is huge.
Good idea.
We've got to get to the attorneys. I've spent probably 50 hours talking to attorneys, and where it normally ends is the few good ones are so busy and their lives are so threatened that they can't take on anymore. But the lion's share of them just don't have the courage to take it on. They kind of look at you like, you're not serious. Are you serious? I'm being sprayed. They give you this deer in the headlights look. I've seen that more times than I care to recall. But so anyway, again, the awareness of reaching, the probably millions of attorneys in this country with this message, with the idea, maybe one of them will pick it up, and again, creating that level of awareness that'll give those pilots the public awareness where they feel comfortable even coming out with what they know. I feel extremely confident that my brother knows. He just surely knows that still the majority of the population, is not aware of this issue, and that needs to change and quick.
Has anyone ever challenged these damn legal, what do they call them, the agreements you sign when you get in the military on the basis of the First Amendment and freedom of speech? I mean, here they are signing away, creating this pact to not disclose anything evil or anything dastardly going on in the military. And, I mean, that should be illegal. I mean, somebody should challenge these things, these non-disclosure agreements. That's the word I'm looking for.
Go ahead, Suzanne.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's this plausible deniability. It's this compartmentalization, and it's going to be really tough to hold these people's feet to the fire. But I think once they get fed up with the corruption, Brian, I mean, this is when these types of central authority are destined to fall. So I think that we keep having to push on our own, because nobody's going to come save us. This is all up to us. And we can't look to the military, the press, the courts, the civil servants. All these people are complicit. All these people are covering it up. Shame on them, because their families will become sickened and compromised as well. So we have to take the bull by the horns, and they will come to us, I think, when they're so disillusioned by the corruption that they can't take it anymore, that perhaps their conscience is niggling them, because Greg has mentioned that about his brother, that his conscience can niggle him. We have to shame these people. I mentioned this before. You look at the guy who shot Cecil the lion, the trophy hunter in South Africa. I mean, the vitriol that this man experienced over social media because people shamed his actions. I mean, I don't even think he can get a job now for what he did to that lion. So this is what we have to do. These people fear shame, fear being outed for lying and being deceitful. We know that. So I think in the meantime, we have to pick up the ball, and then hopefully they will follow, because we know this system is infiltrated and corrupted on every level. So the military has failed us,
Definitely. Hey, now you never got a chance to promote your site and what you're doing to raise money. So why don't you get into that for us?
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, I don't have a lot of calendars left. I have about a dozen left. So if anybody wants to get a calendar, they can go to byebyebluesky.com and make a $25 donation. It's $20 for the calendar, $5 for shipping. And in terms of billboards, we're really making strides. We're going international now. We're just getting a Bye Bye Blue Sky billboard up in New Jersey. And that's going to be happening around February, March. And I have another great admin I'd like to acknowledge, which is Sharon Marsh Lapierre. And she is getting this billboard up in New Jersey. And thank you to everybody for donating to that. As well, there's actually another GoFundMe campaign up for a Bye Bye Blue Sky billboard. This is in Michigan. This is on my Facebook. I will be blogging this as well, but I encourage everybody to support this billboard. And as we said before, I don't think it's really a consideration at this stage to donate to the billboard in your area. This is just a grassroots movement, and we will get more billboards up in every city as it comes along. But I think we need to support the ones and the people taking initiative to get the billboards up in their own states and own cities. So I encourage people to support Elena's efforts in Michigan. And I have a website, byebyebluesky.com, and my Facebook group is actually growing strong. It's close to 3,000 people now, and I encourage people to join it. And I really think it's a community and family, and it's very much a sharing, caring experience. We're educating one another, we're supporting one another, and so I encourage people to join the group.
Do you have like a volunteer list that you organize, people to run your booths and help out with logistics?
Well, what's fabulous is people actually are coming to me and saying, I want to help you, Suzanne, I want to support you. I really have been a one-man band now for about 2 years, but I've had a great couple here in Muskoka who've been helping me with booths, Ralph and Barb. They're a great couple. And I just, what was really cool, Brian, is this conference that we did over the weekend. I had 3 people come up to me and say, I want to start a Bye Bye Blue Sky booth. So, and I will certainly help them with that. I feel I'm an educator in this too. If anybody wants to learn how to set up a booth, how to host a meeting, how to get a billboard up, I have all this information on my website, and I can help them with that as well. So I'm here to help.
So is there's good contact information on your sites, ways to reach you?
Yes, absolutely. I also have an email address. It's info@byebyebluesky.com if you have any questions, if you want to reach out to me as well.
Awesome. I mean, that's the key. Just connect. And the whole thing is having the conversation. And then, people with such credible people as you and Greg, I mean, that's what it is. It's all about connecting with someone who understands the issue and comes across as being extremely credible. And you guys have both of those bases covered in spades.
Yeah, and you have to be authentic, and you have to trust the people you're working with. And I certainly trust Greg implicitly, and people need to feel that, because you're not going to be comfortable working in this venue if you're second guessing people and not trusting their motives. So engage with people you trust, that have like minds, that support you, that respect what you're doing. And again, forming a community. And again, it's what it's all about. This is what's going to stop it, Brian. It's not by some guy in Idaho, or some girl in Huntsville. It's going to be all of us together, and dropping attitude, ego, and coming together to really save the planet. Because I can't underscore, we are in desperate times. We really are.
Yeah, it's growing. It's creating local support groups across the country, across both countries and around the world. I remember I was about a year and a half ago, I went to see Judy Rebick, who really created a lot of the women's movement back in the 80s. And she said when they were full bore running, they had 500 different women's groups coordinated across the country, Canada. And see, this is what we need to do with the geoengineering issue, and actually all the environmental issues. It's just create grassroots little areas, connections, and then bringing them all together, and that's what's going to make a difference. Even going door to door and talking to people. I mean, we got to try everything. There's nothing to lose at this point.
No, there's nothing. We have to do everything. And you know what? I always say, every person has their own sphere of influence. You have to figure out what it is, and then you just go for it. You figure out where your talents and your skills lie, and apply them. And in that way you can make a difference, because this is a very dark subject, but we have to put it across in a way that we feel comfortable and that can resonate to the public. So.
Well, that's what I can say. Getting together, having parties. I consider what we did on the weekend was really more like a social gathering than a serious meeting. That's the thing. A potluck event, a dance. One of my favorite activists on the planet, a guy named Alberto Rus, he got a bus. He put together a musical act, a theater act. He went all through Central America and South America, promoting his message, which was reconnecting with the mother, which, in the end is the ultimate cause of all these things, is that we've lost connection with the mother, the planet, the fact that we kind of need the planet to live, folks. And if we're killing it with geoengineering and all these other toxins, we're in big trouble. It was he was extremely successful in doing this. And what about a trailer billboard, guys? Has anybody tried that with geoengineering and just driving all over the place?
Oh man, that's funny you say that, Brian, because I drive around with a bullseye in the back of one of my delivery trucks. I've got other vehicles I can drive, but that seems to be the one I picked just because I like to get the word out. And it's got my billboard image in a 4x8 board on the back of my delivery truck. So whenever they're running around Atlanta, they're advertising for aircraft. And that gets a lot of attention. I'll probably get hit by a drone here one of these days. But I drive that tank around. And once the deliveries come off, it's a heck of a powerful image going down the road for sure. It's that same guy with the gas mask on with the reflection of chemtrails and the glass on his gas mask. You're being sprayed like a bug. It's real hard. I get a lot of beeps on the road, people coming up beside me and behind me, and so.
It's just like a moving vehicle, like a size vehicle.
It's a big flatbed truck. Yep.
Oh, beautiful.
And that's something that everybody could do too. Now, obviously you can't do it on the back of a sedan, but people that own businesses and have delivery trucks or tractor trailers, you can screw a sign like that to the back door. Something you just mentioned, Brian, I think is a great idea. Going door to door. When I ran for Congress, we went door to door in 104. We did it the old-fashioned way, handed out brochures, knocked on the door. We hit, I think, 12,000 homes. And it was 104, by the way. You're knocking on the door to drip and sweat all over people's front porch. But anyway, at least they know you're serious, But anyway, Yeah, that was some Mary Lou was sucking in diesel exhaust, driving alongside while I was
Hey,
going door to door.
Suzanne
all day.
wants to do a door-to-door campaign with me. I'd go for it. I'll give her a
Okay.
couple of days. It's all about outnumbering the other side. So you got two people there coming at you. I mean, I'm telling you, you have a lot of persuasive ability when you do that.
Yeah.
Well, what I was thinking about was people could go door to door with the calendars or the DVDs.
Oh, for
You know,
sure. You can sell stuff. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. For
I
sure.
mean, you can knock on the door. Hey, we're looking for donations of, if you don't have to have freight involved or shipping, $20 for this calendar. It's promoting billboards across the country. And then you're educating every person in every home because they're going to see that calendar. And that DVD is going to be watched by every person in every home. I know this works because we raised $50,000 in funds. My campaign manager told me, he said, you never finance your own campaign. Even if you can afford to, you always make the money yourself. You generate the funds yourself. That proves whether you're a good salesman or not and whether people believe in you or not. So I think the idea, the point being that a lot of funds can be generated by going door to door and just asking people, hey, would you be willing to support my campaign? This is no different. Hey, would you be willing to buy this calendar? Or would you be willing to buy this DVD that's so educational? There's 4 hours of content. You will be amazed at the content in this DVD.
Well,
And,
well, what
you
about
know,
this, Greg? When you go to door and you sell them a DVD, it says, "Would you like to have some friends over, and I'll come back and we'll have a little, have a little potluck, or we'll watch the movie together, and you can ask me questions after."
great idea. Great idea. I mean, we went out in teams. We would have like 10 or 12 people across the whole district and going door to door with brochures and door hangers. And if they weren't home, you hang a door hanger. So there's a lot of things that activists can do. And I can't even imagine how many funds, how many billboards we could put up in this country if people would do that and just push themselves. Not everybody's a born salesman, but I sure know a lot of people. Suzanne has told me in private that, she wasn't exactly an extrovert before, she took all this on, but she just felt like she had to do it and she had to get over her fear. For me, I think it's more natural, maybe, but you do what you have to do. And I think that, these big groups of activists, if 3,000-4,000 people could be pointed in a direction, in that type of a direction, I can't even imagine how much money could be raised, and to put up billboards all across the country, and at the same time educate people and reach people
Yeah, you
with
could
the
get
message.
yeah, you could get a team of 10 people and all go out together, and then meet
Exactly. It's
after and have a
fun.
party.
It's so much fun. We had so much
Exactly.
fun doing that. It was like a competition because it was like, can we get this guy? And I'm a sales guy, have been all my life, and I was good at
You
it.
can have a
Um,
competition too. You can have a prize for the person who sells the most merchandise. Yeah.
exactly that. And also, we would have the competition as to how many signs can I convince, a Greg Pallen sign in the guy's front lawn. How many, I'm going to give him a brochure, but how many of these people can I convince to let me put a sign in their front yard? So, I'm looking across Steven's across the street from me, and he's looking over at me, and I grab another sign off the truck and stick it in the ground, and he's like, that son of a gun. So he's wanting to get, the sign up on his side of the street, and we had a lot of fun doing that. But, and the same could be done with this, like you just said, great idea.
What about a property sign instead of a billboard? That's a freebie. No cost
A
for a
what,
property sign.
a
Yeah,
what sign?
yeah, I think that's a definite viable too. I mean, I find people could deface them perhaps or take them down, but I believe Bernadette Gervais Green put up a sign on her lawn, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and she actually did something at Halloween, which was pretty cool. She put the weather exchange information related to weather exchange between the U.S. and Canada on her front lawn. She put some ghouls and some goblins up, and pointed pointed the sky with chemtrails, and she made it really, really cool. So she did that on a lark at Halloween. So again, it's all using your creativity and imagination. Like the world's our oyster here in terms of waking people up. There's no limitations.
I love that woman. I mean, we got on like a house on fire. I'd love to go door to door with her too. I mean, she is the kind of person who could pull people out of the woodwork. I mean, she has that ability to connect with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should actually mention this is a newly created hub or network in Canada called GAG. Very appropriate.
Oh, yes, get that out there.
Trails, GAG, Geoengineering Awareness Group, and people can connect through GAG if they want to find a group in their area, if they want to start up a group in their area. So Bernadette Gervais-Green has started this up, and I think it's gagcanada.com is the website. So I encourage people to sign up there if they're feeling a little isolated or lost and not knowing where to connect, because Bernadette can do that. And if you're in my area, if you're in Muskoka and Toronto, you can reach out to me. So we want to try and cover all bases here.
Yeah, I know. We got to bring the movement together across nations. Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. And I think that's why I love what GAG's doing. They also have a Facebook site. Most people are on Facebook. So GAG Canada is the Facebook address. G.A.G.Canada. Yeah, correct. You got to put that dot in there. It won't. I found it. What doesn't come up unless you put that dot in the Facebook address area.
Yeah. So I think this is a real important addition to the movement. And Greg and I were even talking about that. I think they need something like this in America as well. I think it's important because I'm getting more and more now. Where's a group in New York I connect with? Where's a group here I can connect with? And we need to streamline this. We need to join people together. So
it'd be fun to get someone who had some time to start calling some big trucking companies and see if you could get some free. Maybe the back again of a truck versus the size they usually advertise, well, not all of them, but some of them advertise a product, but like say Canadian Tire, but a lot of these guys are independent. So they just got a big trailer and man, there's more trucks on the road than cars nowadays. And that would be, has anybody tried to get a trucking company connected with the message, a or anti-geoengineering message?
That's another great idea, Brian, because the truckers are huge chemtrail. They're very aware and they're very active. I've heard them talking on the CB.
You got those in your truck?
What's that?
You got a CB in your truck?
No, I've just heard it I have trucking companies come into my company and they tell me that they're hearing the truckers, and I've gone out, in their trucks and heard them talking when they pull in and about chemtrails, So bottom line is that's a great idea because you already have an audience that's aware. When you tell them about it, they're going to be like, yeah, that's a good idea. But these signs, and again, the sign could be made a different size, but the signs that I use for my events, like when we did Global March at CNN Center, is a 4x8 sign that literally you can go down 12 blocks and read that sign. And so point being, those signs are $50 a piece. So you don't really necessarily have to spend $1,000 on a billboard. If you know somebody that's got a piece of private property that you could put up a couple steel posts, that's what we did. That's why I use the signs now with my activism, is because we use them in campaigns, and we found out what a powerful tool they were in terms of put a steel post on each end of a 4x8 sign, and you can't miss that, even at 55 miles an hour, and it's a heck of a lot cheaper than a billboard. So, $50 will get you in decent bulk. I think for about, if you buy 20 signs, you can get them for $50 a piece. So if there was a central repository for these things, and I have some at my shop that if somebody wanted to buy from me, I would sell them at direct cost, obviously. But I think that needs to happen, where people either get their own signs made or there's central repositories across the country for these kind of supplies, to where people could buy them for the back of their trucks. maybe make them pickup sized. We could put them on the back of a pickup truck window, or bumper stickers obviously wouldn't be as visible, but these signs are powerful. The 4x8 size, and even the 4x4 size is pretty effective.
Well, for the cost of $7,000 a month, for $7,000, couldn't you detail at one side of a truck for that kind of money?
Oh, most definitely. I've looked into that. I've looked at getting a sleeve around my entire pickup truck. That's not cheap. I'm trying to remember. It was in the thousands, but again, I think what needs to be done is, forget that 7,000 figure and beat up on the billboard companies. Get either the nonprofit rates or the preemptive rates, because you're still going to have incredible coverage. If you can get that for 1,000, that's pretty strong, strong outreach. Yeah.
Well, it's another idea I've got. Why isn't there a geoengineering TV online station? There's so many people involved in geoengineering, so many activists. We could put on, like, I'm just thinking, like, say, an Alex Jones type format, 3-4 hours a day, repeat it. Shouldn't cost too much money. I know this station runs 2 platforms. Now, they're not video, but 2 platforms, $4,200 a month to run this station, because everybody donates their time. Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't cost that much to start a geoengineering TV station.
That's an interesting idea. I don't know much about that kind of stuff, and I don't know if Suzanne does, but that's what we need, people like you that have an education, that kind of stuff, because it's just, it's hard to cover all bases. God, I do this thing about 24/7. I know Suzanne does too, and hopefully more people will pick up the ball in that regard and implement those ideas, because that's another good idea.
Yeah, because I met a chap at Suzanne's event. He's talking about local TV radio stations, terrestrial radio stations, about doing some shows. There's one of the things that's happening now with this horrible centralization of the media is there's a lot of little TV stations, radio stations are being put right out of business. Mm-hmm. So it might be a good opportunity to get in there and get in real cheap. But I think an online, you got to buy a few servers. You got to probably the biggest expense will be the data, pushing out the data daily, and depending on how many people are watching and whatnot. But I mean, that's something I've thought about doing too. Is getting moving from or staying on here, but also starting a TV show or a regular online program. Because I'm into all I call them the 8 planet killers. I'm over all these things. I understand all the issues. And what I like to do is reach out to people and get them to call in and talk about how they see it and what their concerns are. It's all about connecting the community, creating a community of activists. This is what's going to fix all these issues.
Yeah.
Won't argue with that.
Yeah. All right. That's good. So, what else is I going to chat about? Let's see. I've got some really big ideas here. Get beyond geoengineering specifically. But do you know that the Rothschilds' famous saying about, you can have any political system you want, any political party you want. All I want it to do is control the currency, and I'm happy. I can control everybody through the currency. Have you heard that statement? That's sort of a paraphrase.
Yes, I've seen the meme on that on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have an idea, and I've got some people that are quite interested in helping me with this. Is an alternative currency. I call it a green currency. Get people to use the currency, and then natural affinity people would be people running health food stores, organic farmers, naturopaths, chiropractors, you name it. And then we'll start our own currency, and then by through using this currency, we can start our own little bank, and we can fund all sorts of great initiatives across the whole environmental spectrum.
That's what I think it is, Brian. I think it's going to take non-compliance to a destructive system that needs to go down. So it's, don't buy their labels. Don't go in and buy their processed GMO foods and their junk foods. Don't get the vaccines. Grow your own garden. Sew your own clothes if you can. We have to really go back to nature, go back to the natural way we can do things, and you know what? Regain some self-responsibility and self-determination, and not depend on our governments or society to take care of us, because they ain't going to do it and they aren't. So I think everything is good if you just simply do not comply with the system, because that's all it takes. If you stop buying the Nike running shoes and going to McDonald's and watching the news every night, I mean, it would fail. It's such a simple thing. We have the power in our hands.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, and the people that are connected, they've done the studies. Most people who are activists are happier than the average person. We're certainly loving, caring people. And if you want to meet good people, folks, if you want to make some really good new friends, become an activist. Get involved. You'll only meet good people. I'm telling you. I'm not saying everyone's going to become your best friend, but you're going to find someone that you really connect with. At that event we had last weekend, I really connected with 2 or 3 people. That one woman there, the young girl who wrote that poem at the end, what was her name?
Bianca.
Bianca. Mm-hmm. Oh God, she was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was great, and it just goes to reinforce again. I mean, we have been neutralized and made to feel impotent, that we have no power. But when in reality we're so powerful, and all we have to do is say no and stop agreeing and stop complying. It's I think it's pretty simple. We make it difficult, but it doesn't need to be.
Yeah. I mean, we've really stopped. We've stopped. We've lost the ability to create community, mm-hmm. And right now we don't really have a human community anymore. What all we have is a buy and sell system,
yes.
And it's really corrupted our souls. And what do you think of an alternative currency, Greg? Do you think it's a good idea?
Oh, I love it. I'm a silver investor, and that's part of what got Kennedy in trouble, was a silverback currency, and we most definitely need alternative currencies, whether they be Bitcoin or just any type of a precious metal-backed currency that will retain its value. Obviously, the dollar's lost 90% plus of its value since the creation of the Federal Reserve, and I think what you're talking about doing is fantastic. Exchange among like-minded people, and that would grow, whether they be farmers or chiropractors, and those occupations tend to be more aware.
The most popular food change, the most popular thing for people to buy nowadays is good food, natural, organic foods. We got Whole Foods. We got all sorts of natural food outlets. We got the farmers markets picking up now. They certainly are in Canada. Hopefully they are in the U.S. I mean, now you can make. I was told you can grow $140,000 of food on 1 acre land nowadays if it's organic. That's what you're going to get.
One thing keep in mind with that, Brian, and I totally agree with you. You're right. Although, the poisoning of the soils is making it really hard. I do a lot of gardening, and it's just becoming extremely difficult to grow tomatoes, to grow anything anymore. I just got done with putting in a greenhouse, and one thing I wanted to say about that is that you can build a greenhouse, and I've seen pictures of them that are absolutely amazing. They're much prettier than the one I built. People will take old windows out of houses or cabins or barns or whatever, and I've seen them on some of my survivalist websites and magazines and stuff, and they'll just take a collage of windows and build this greenhouse out of it. And it's amazing what you can build. I mean, just beautiful, with moss growing off the roof and flowers. And again, they're just more original and stylish than mine personally. But I think it's important for people to think in that direction. The idea that in the event of an EMP or some other natural disaster, the idea of being able to grow your own food, is really important outside of the chemtrail fallout, if possible, because Lorraine Murray talks a good bit about that we should really only be eating root-type vegetables because of the not only the chemtrail fallout, but the Fukushima fallout on the leaves of green leafy vegetables. So it's something to think about. I think it's a good idea personally to. I'm a big fisherman and hunter, because again, you can grow all the vegetables you want, but if it shit hits the fan in a big way and you're on the run, it doesn't hurt to be able to know how to take a deer or a squirrel even. So I always encourage people to get in touch with maybe some of those things they did, 20, 25 years ago as a kid, or more. It doesn't hurt to have those skills, because if things get bad, you want to be able to survive, and you want longevity, and you don't want to eat. I feel more comfortable eating spinach and arugula and chard out of my greenhouse than I do, getting it even from Whole Foods, because that Whole Foods just-in-time inventory could run out really quickly. And Suzanne I'm sure will comment about that, because she just told me that yesterday.
Yeah, I was mentioning to Brian as well, Greg. Yeah, I went to go get some greens, and there was no greens in the grocery store because of this listeria dole scare. But there was no other greens as well, so they cleared the whole shelves off. And then the week before, I went to get some berries, and there was no strawberries or blueberries because of the geoengineered drought in California. And also, I know that the oranges are suffering in Florida. So this is what we're going to be facing everywhere. And this is going to be a systemic collapse, and it's going to happen very quickly, and people won't know what hit them. So to be prepared, I mean, it's going to be critical. People that are awake certainly need to prepare.
Yeah, another alternative, if you don't want to build a greenhouse, which is, I completely concur. I mean, greenhouse growing is so much better than outdoors. Will Allen is feeding 10,000 poor people in Milwaukee on 3-acre lot. Greenhouse with aquaculture. He's got fish going in there. I mean, he's got beehives in there. He's got a whole biodome kind of idea there going, and it's incredibly productive. And that's a lot of people that feed on 3 acres. So it's because you can grow 24/7, 365 in any environment, folks, with a greenhouse. But here's another suggestion that's so cheap, but it's so doable, and I've done it for a long time, is microgrow. Get 10 jars. Get different seeds. Okay, get mung seed, get soybean, get alfalfa. All you have to do is get it wet, leave it in water for a day, then drain it, and then wet it every few days. And in a week, you'll have a jar full of seeds that have sprouted. Now, those sprouts are extremely healthy, extremely good for you, full of chlorophyll and all sorts of good enzymes. And that's your internal greenhouse, right in your home. Anybody can grow. Anybody.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's great. We all have to be self-sufficient. That's what it's coming down to.
Yeah, and all that stuff is on. You can look up microgrow, and there's probably 20 to 100 sites on microgrowing on Facebook alone. You can make friends through doing that. They're all various people. I find a lot of them are vegetarians and vegans. They're very wonderful people. They care a lot about the planet. They're very gentle, loving people. So another way to make some new friends that are actually doing some good stuff.
Mm-hmm. And create awareness in the interim, because there are a number too of farmers and people that you think would be aware of chemtrails that aren't. So it's I look at every day as an opportunity to awaken somebody. So.
Yeah, there's no reason why you can't talk about gardening while you're talking about chemtrails, and vice versa. And bug out bags and all the issues. I mean, they all come back to the fact that we basically now live in a fascist state, a fascist world, where most of our freedoms have been taken. Our freedom to grow our own food, have access to good water. They're starting to charge us for everything. And we see in China, they're starting to charge people to breathe air.
They want to own it all.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of people are thinking, and it's obviously very important to think about the activism, but you also have to think about the longevity. And you mentioned the water, Brian, and I always, to my friends, I recommend, and I have no interest in first needs, but in my research, my campaign manager was Marine Recon, and I have his recon. I'm a survivalist myself, but he sent me his survivalist list, and it's an extremely interesting list. It's almost like a bug out bag list, and there's stuff on there that really make you think. that he's got on this list. But and I posted it. I think I posted it last year. But anyway, the idea of water filtration, and my research pointed to a water filtration device by the name of First Needs water purifier, instead of just a water filter. I mean, you could literally drop that in a puddle and drink the water. And that's a good idea for a bug out bag. It's about $100 if you can afford that. It's a really good filter. There's more expensive filters that aren't as effective, that don't take out, bacteria and viruses. That First Needs is a really good filter. I have one of those in my bug out bag, and you're dead in 3 days without water. Food, you could probably go 30. So people need to be concerned about water filtration. They really do. It's very important. I've got about 3 or 4 or 5 different ways to filter water.
I mean, nobody should be drinking anything municipal water. I just discovered an incredible source of water up here, where I'm here most of the winter up at Mont Tremblant, free of charge, offered through municipality. You pull up, you fill up your tanks. Man, it tastes like Perrier water. It's so good tasting. It must be good for me.
Wow.
Yeah, we're fortunate up here. In Quebec, they have all sorts of good laws. We actually have some good environmental laws in Quebec, in some parts of Canada. Certainly know where they should be, but in Quebec, it's not really a fascist law, but it's a law that protects the natural water systems here. So basically the government said you cannot disrupt the shoreline of your property the first 10 meters of anywhere in the province. So if you run around and you try to put a concrete patio on the edge of your property, you're going to get in trouble nowadays, because they've realized that the natural environment is what we need to create a healthy environment for all the animals and bugs and all the layers of the food chain to exist in. So things are still pretty healthy up here in Quebec because of that law.
Does that law apply to livestock, Brian? I'm just curious, can the farmers run their cows? Because in Georgia here, our cabin in the mountains, the farmers run their cows. They let them, drink out of the trout stream, and then they kick mud into the trout stream, obviously, and then they muddy it up, and it's.
I don't think no.
Good for
I'm not sure about farming, whether it affects the farmers. I doubt it does. It was mainly aimed at property owners who were doing a lot of destruction to their natural shoreline, putting in, like I say, concrete patios right on the edge of the lake, or putting in all this shrubbery, foreign plants. Some people wanted their cottage to look like a home in the city. And it was not good for the natural, the cleaning capacity of the lake and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So it's proven to be very successful. There's a lot of beautiful native plants up here that are recovering, and they just come back on their own. You don't have to plant anything. You just leave nature alone, and it'll fix itself real quick.
Do you not see the eco decline in Quebec?
No, not as bad. We don't have as much spraying here. I find that the spraying is mainly in the cities. It's been my experience. You get up to the city, you're going to have a lot better air quality. Although the U.S. is so populated, I don't know if there's any place there that there's going to be great air quality. But here in Canada, most of our population is right along the border of the U.S. So if you get north of the big cities, you're going to have a lot better air. Yeah.
I find our air is only better here, maybe, or because I'm sensitive, because there's a lot less frequencies. The spraying in Muskoka is terrible. It's, I would say, almost as heavy if you're looking at a population to population average from Muskoka to Toronto. It's terrible here. It can be very hard to breathe on days. And I'm seeing more and more people I'm talking to. Oh, I had a stroke yesterday. Oh, my brother-in-law had a heart attack. I just out of the blue, yes, I had a stroke. I've talked to 2 women that just had strokes in the past few weeks. I mean, what is going on?
With all respect, Suzanne, Muskoka is like a city to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many people going there on the weekends. It's crazy. I remember
during the summer, for sure.
Like it was in Toronto.
Yeah, during the summer for sure, Brian, but not during the winter. It's really a ghost town here because all the snowbirds leave, and it's very, very quiet. It's extremely quiet, and the spraying continues.
Yeah.
And our tree decline is scary here. I
No,
mean,
I rarely see a trail up here at Tremblant, maybe one or two a day. Whereas in Toronto, you just, when I drive back to Toronto, it's wow, I just see them nonstop. Uh,
well, and the problem is they're so rife with frequency theirs with the smart meters and the Gwen towers and the digitals and all the rest of it that you're just literally in a walking antenna there. It's almost to me unbearable to be there.
mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
it's awful.
yeah, no, the only reason I go there is because I have a 9-year-old mother and she needs my help. So, I mean,
Mhm.
I don't want to put her in a home until I absolutely have to, and that's kind of my commitment to my mom, and I think that's important too.
That's
But
impressive.
anyways, that's a whole other issue. But hey, we're getting near the end of our time here, folks.
Okay.
And I just want to really thank you guys so much for coming on. And you're doing some awesome grassroots awareness around the issue of geoengineering. And man, we just can't do enough of it. It's the one issue that's still not mainstream out in the face of the public. I think all the other planet killers are out there, and this is probably I put it up there with radiation poisoning as the top number one and two, depending on how you want to rate them. These are the issues that we have to deal with. These are number one on my hit list. And so thanks so much, Greg and Suzanne, for coming on. If you want to throw out again, lastly, your contact information quickly before we hit the commercial break, that would be great.
Go ahead, Suzanne.
Okay, yeah. Anybody wanting to contact me, it's Facebook Bye Bye Blue Sky, website byebyebluesky.com. If you want to shoot me an email, it's info@byebyebluesky.com. So thank you very much, Brian.
Well, it was my pleasure.
Thank you. And my Facebook page is Greg Pallen, the number 4 Congress. And if you want to still get a calendar, it's www.gofundme.com/stop the spraying. And for